Pledge allegiance to the flag
the United States of America.
to the republic to stand one nation under God,
Indivisible, with liberty and
justice
justice
for all.
for all.
Thank you. I'll look to my colleagues for consideration of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? All right, hearing none, we will proceed with the agenda as presented. I'll call your attention to two items on the agenda. There are two opportunities for us to hear from the public. The first is during a public hearing for a conditional use permit, and we'll invite up members of the public who signed up during that part to talk about that conditional use permit. Later in the meeting, number 8, that's when we will check the list to see if anyone has signed up to talk about anything else on their mind. We have general instructions for addressing council, and I'd like to read them into the record. Number 1, when recognized, please come forward, stand at the podium, and provide your name and state if you're a resident of Lexington, Virginia. If you would like to be contacted after this meeting, please provide your contact information to the clerk. Number 2, please make your comments to the council as a whole and do not engage the audience. Number 3, we ask that you be brief. We ask that you state your position and provide facts. We typically limit public comment to 3 minutes. Number 4, please provide written statements or supporting materials to the clerk for distribution to the council and the city manager. Debate during public comment is prohibited. This is a time for you to share your thoughts and your ideas with council, but we want to hear from you, not you addressing the audience. Please speak clearly, and if there happens to be a time when we can't hear you because you're not speaking into the microphone, I may interrupt you and ask you to talk into the microphone. In closing, if there happens to be a group that you're speaking on behalf of, we'll give you 5 minutes, and the group can stand up and you can recognize the group. There may be exceptions to these guidelines, and those exceptions are based on council and the interim mayor's discretion. As a reminder, again, our meetings are formal proceedings. They are recorded. What you say will be available as part of the public record. So those are the ground rules for our 2 public hearings tonight. Moving on, we'll get right into the first, the public hearing for conditional use permit 2026-01. And I'd like to invite up Mr. Arnie Glazer, the Director of Planning and Community Development, for a staff report.
Good evening, everyone. We do have a request for a conditional use permit for 25 West Washington Street. The storefront at 25 West Washington Street was recently occupied by the Mulberry's DIY Workshop. And Mr. Frank O'Rourke is now petitioning the city for a conditional use permit to turn that space into a tattoo and piercing shop. A tattoo parlor and or body piercing salon use is a conditional use in the C1 zoning district, and that's why we're here this evening for a public hearing. Location map on the bottom of the first page shows you the general location, and over on the next page, which is page 6 of your overall packet, is Mr. Rourke's proposal to have 2 permanent tattoo stations, 1 flex tattoo station for guest artists, and 1 entirely private piercing station. Staff is therefore recommending a condition to limit the number of stations to those proposed by the applicant. Over on page 7, we have the intent sort of district of the C1 zoning district there in case it's helpful. And perhaps more helpful is a definition of a tattoo parlor and or body piercing salon. You see that it references of the Virginia code section, and I have that, at least the definition is printed out if that's needed. Perhaps more important are the conditions of issuance for a conditional use permit. It's been a little while since we've had a conditional use permit, but those are the conditions there that the conditional use permits may be issued, provided that the governing body shall find that. And we have A, B, C, and D on the next page. And then over in the number 3, there's also a little bit in there that says the governing body shall give due consideration, as well as to any other reasonable land use and zoning consideration as may be required by the nature of the proposed use, or as may be otherwise appropriate to effectuate the intent of the chapter. The governing body shall designate such conditions as it deems necessary to carry out the intent of this chapter. Speaking of conditions, conditional uses are considered to have a potentially greater impact upon neighboring properties or the public than those that are permitted by right. And for that reason, you are able to address those with reasonable conditions. that are made for, sorry, that must be reasonable and address an impact expected from the proposed use. And additionally, conditions developed to address an expected impact must be proportionally related to the impacts resulting from that use. Again, staff has only recommended one particular condition. Planning Commission also endorsed that condition. They held a public hearing on July 9th, and they had a unanimous decision to recommend with that one condition. And that one condition is, again, that the proposed tattoo parlor and body piercing salon shall be limited to 3 tattoo stations and 1 piercing station. There are no questions about that. I'll just review quickly. There are in your packet, just to give you a review of what occurred during the Planning Commission hearing. We do have an excerpt of the minutes where you'll see a number of folks spoke. We also have written comments included in your packet for all the comments that came in. And then Kate also added one from Red Dowdle because he could not attend this evening. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, no questions. I'm going to grab the sign-up sheet.
I did have one question. Do you have the knowledge about how the taxes work with the tattoo shop? They're a little bit, it's a little
Only the little that I provided in the packet, in that it also depends on sort of how they do a package deal, but it's a service, so it's not a retail sales item. So unless they're selling the aftercare lotion or some of the body piercing things, but it gets a little complicated as I understand it from the Commissioner of Revenue, that if it's a package deal, then it's, I think, a little bit more of it ends up in the sales tax category. That's just a general overview.
Sure. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, I'd like to open the public hearing now. The time is 7:07. This is a public hearing on conditional use permit 2026-01. I don't believe anyone signed up to talk about this topic. However, if there's anyone present tonight that would like to talk about this topic, this conditional use permit, I would like to recognize you. All right, seeing nobody, we will also close the public hearing at 7:07. So we do have the applicant here. Since you came, we would love to hear from you, maybe prior to city council discussion. If you have anything that you would like to share with us. It was a good staff report, obviously unanimous decision by planning, but we appreciate you being here. So happy to hear if you have any comments.
First of all, thank you for letting us be here tonight. My name is Frank O'Rourke. One thing I did today was I got here several hours early, and I wanted to walk around the city, Washington Street and Main Street, to speak to all the business owners that were open. And you have a lot of galleries on Washington Street, some restaurants, outfitters. I even went down to an Irish barber shop and met the gentleman down there. And I wanted to introduce myself. I wanted to give them my name and phone number. If you have any concerns, thoughts, builds, please give me a call. It was interesting. They were all very welcoming, except for one person. And he was actually military. And he said that, I don't like tattoos. I don't have any. I was in the Army. And went on to say that, I don't understand why people get tattoos. And I said, well, it's a form of art. People express themselves. A lot or most of the people were excited about it. Not that they were interested necessarily in getting a tattoo, but they were interested in the traffic and the nuances that we could bring to the downtown area. The vitality, and what we want to do. Obviously, we want to run a business and be profitable, but we want to help other businesses too by bringing in people and letting them know about the other businesses in Lexington, the restaurants, the outfitters. They want to get a haircut, there's an Irish barber shop, to help drive business. So we respect Lexington, we respect their heritage, respect their history, and we want to bring even more vitality to the downtown area as we can from our customers and clients.
I'm Freeman Martin. I've been tattooing in Virginia for 25 years, and I'll make this as brief as possible. But in this process, I've had the chance to speak with a lot of people here, and it's clear that, at least to me, it seemed like everybody was excited, but there were some folks that were less excited about it. And I just wanted to kind of speak to that and say that we understand that we have an obligation to the entire community. And moving forward, hopefully, I just want to make sure that everyone knows that we hear everything that everyone's saying, and that includes the people that maybe don't agree 100%. So that being said, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for the comments. I would love to open it up for discussion from council. Any questions from staff or the applicant, or?
Do you have tattoo shops in other localities, or would this be the first one?
This is the first one in this area. We do not plan on having other tattoo shops or satellite shops. We want to focus on downtown Lexington. Now, Freeman has worked and opened other tattoo shops in Richmond, Virginia,
Okay.
and currently is a tattoo artist in Blacksburg.
Thanks.
Since you have one in Blacksburg and this is a college town, what amount of traffic do you have coming in and out of your tattoo location there?
Not to say it's, solely the university, but that there's as far as the shop goes, you definitely know when classes are going on.
Session.
And during the summertime, there's kind of an interesting dynamic that takes place where obviously there's less students coming in, but a lot more locals come in at that time that maybe don't frequent downtown Blacksburg as much during the when college is going on.
Right. Growing up here in Lexington, I can tell you that downtown had somewhat of an eclectic vibe to it. And I think that this would bring people to downtown who wouldn't ordinarily come. And that would give them an opportunity to see what else the city has to offer while family or folks are waiting for a family member to get a tattoo, or when they finish or before they come in, they will get to see what else is downtown rather than just zipping through in a car. And that'll give them an opportunity to visit our stores and our restaurants. And I look forward to seeing the difference, a positive difference that it will make. Thank you for coming here.
Thank you.
If there's no other comments, I'll go ahead and make a motion. I move to approve conditional use permit number CUP 2026-01 for a tattoo parlor and body piercing salon at 25 West Washington Street as proposed by the applicant and with the staff recommended condition.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Betts?
Aye.
Ms. Strawn?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Alexander?
Aye.
Unanimous, 4-0. Congratulations. When do you plan to open?
I meet with David, who is the property manager, tomorrow to sign the lease. It will probably be, somebody is occupying the space right now. They will probably be moving out by the 15th. We will get the keys on the 15th. And we are going to really be heads down to hopefully open on September 1st or shortly thereafter.
Well, congratulations.
We'll be putting a newsletter together and updating people.
Well, welcome to Lexington.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here tonight. All right, moving along, we have 3 sets of minutes. If there were no changes, we would accept them as presented. All right, sounds good. Making good headway. We now are at the second opportunity for public comment. This is the opportunity for the public. If you have other thoughts on your mind about items in the city, we would love to hear from you now. I don't think I had anyone signed up for this part. but I'm happy to invite anyone up that would like to address city council. Hearing none, we will move on to the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Roll call vote. Ms. Strawn,
Aye.
Mr. Betts,
Aye.
Mr. Smith,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Alexander.
Aye.
Unanimously approve the consent agenda. Thank you. We will now proceed to the reports and commissions. Mr. Driscoll is obviously not here. He's with family tonight and could not attend. I would like to share a brief comment from him on the airport feasibility study. Delta Consultants are working on a draft of an executive summary right now. There'll be a few updates to that. And then ultimately that draft will be released and they will provide it to the steering committee. And eventually they'll share it with the two city managers and the county administrator and potentially a joint meeting in the future if it warrants it with the localities. It could be one topic. If we happen to have another joint meeting already scheduled, it might not warrant its own joint meeting, but that's the report from the airport feasibility study. Mr. Smith, any report from Blue Ridge Resource Authority?
No report.
Mr. Betts, do you want to share anything from the interjurisdictional meeting?
Yeah, I think we had a productive conversation with our neighbors in Buena Vista and Rockbridge. I think we talked about a lot of different options, whether it makes sense to have an expansion on Greenhouse Road or have the sheriff's office, a new sheriff's office built there, or if the sheriff's office might move and the jail, the current sheriff's office could be used and renovated as a potential jail expansion. I don't think any decisions were arrived at, but we had, I think, a fruitful discussion and talked about the pros and cons of different options.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we all attended. Everyone from Buena Vista City Council attended and the Rockbridge County Board of Supervisors attended. We met for almost three hours. Everyone heard the same information, and essentially that the public might just be interested to know the process for expanding the jail could truly take upwards of 4 to 5 years if we were to start now. So that's why there is kind of a need to start sooner rather than later, because the funding, the design, it all takes time. And so the localities do have to get on the same page a little bit because our jail is considered overcrowded right now. But
Like I think you said, David, I think you said a few times, the biggest thing that has to kind of happen first is what's going to happen with the sheriff's office. And then once it's figured out what's going to happen with the sheriff's office, that kind of opens up the possibilities of, what can be done with the jail expansion. If one were to occur.
right, if one
Yeah.
were to occur. Mr. Smith, Main Street, Lexington.
Report from Main Street, Lexington, Tannex Spray Tanning is now open at 146 South Main, which is the second floor above Carolian's Pediatric Clinic. Chamber hosted a ribbon cutting there last Tuesday. 2 more ribbon cuttings downtown later this month. The Lexington Bicycle Repair below Pure Eats will be on Thursday, the 13th. And then a ribbon cutting at the Spice and Tea Exchange on South Main on Friday, the 21st. Old Head Records will likely have one at some point shortly. Rogue Arcade has taken over the lease for Global. Next door, they plan to connect the 2 storefronts and open a small restaurant, i.e. sandwiches and salads and arcade snacks later this fall. Main Street is rebranding their summer sidewalk sale as the end of summer sale and moving it to the weekend of September 18th through the 20th to coincide with the Line Dance Lex. Rebranding seemed necessary because at least half of our participating merchants don't really have a sidewalk or do a sidewalk sale. Per se, they either have limited space outside the store or merchandise that really can't be staged on sidewalk outside. A good example is Lexington Mercantile, which usually does 10 or 15% off store wide, but really can't display their goods out front. Any stores that want to host a sidewalk sale as part of their promotion are still more than welcome to do so, of course. After polling our merchants, Main Street's planning to hold their downtown trick or treat on Friday, October 30th, rather than on Halloween itself. as we understand it, it's a normal course of action when Halloween falls on a weekend. And that's all I have. Any questions?
No questions. All right, moving on. Ms. Strawn, Planning Commission.
Yes, Planning Commission met on Thursday, July 23rd, and we continued our discussion of a residential plan development district. That's all I have.
Great. I'll give a RARO report. We met yesterday. The year that we just concluded, 25-26, that fiscal year was the largest year of participants ever. We had 2,709 participants. That does include if a child happened to play a fall sport, a winter sport, and a spring sport, that child would be counted 3 times. But that's still 2,709 participants in our offerings is a record. So we're very excited about that. As we kick off the fall sports are tackle football, flag football, soccer, and cheerleading. Numbers are pretty good. We did have a decline in the older age groups of flag football. We wanted to offer them, but we actually ended up not having enough numbers to have a league in the older age brackets. But it was important for us to offer that option to families in case the desire was there, but it wasn't this go around. You may have witnessed on social media our amazing 8U girls softball team that went to the World Series in Florence, Alabama. They were in Alabama for, I believe, 8 or 9 days. They qualified for that tournament after coming in second in the entire state. And so that meant that all these young girls and their families took a late summer trip to Florence, Alabama. They said it was an awesome city and they had a great time. They beat Puerto Rico. They beat Manassas, who actually had won the state championship. So they got a little revenge against Manassas. And they hit really, really well. Really a promising future for this group of 8U girls. Couldn't have been possible without the amazing parents, guardians, grandparents, and the people that contributed to also the fundraising efforts. Chase Perry was the head coach, and Becca Stratton was the RARO employee that helped make it all happen. And she accompanied the team to Alabama representing RARO. It was an excellent experience. Softball concluded. We had 19 teams. I've shared that before. The RARO staff is working with the sheriff. There's a desire to offer hunter safety in the schools. That was a desire kind of from the RARO executive director, something that he had done at other places, and then the sheriff. And so that'd be a short course that would be offered most likely at Maury River Middle School at less than 2 weeks. Their thought is that they might, this first year, if they can figure out when to do it, they would open it up to any child that would like to do it. But then going after that, we would only do it in 6th grade because that would kind of be the cycle. We would get the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders in year 1 and then focus on 6th graders. And we believe there could be an interest in that because we do some of the other hunter safety programs that are really well attended. And so that's something that RARO feels that would be a good offering. This year, we brought back a tennis program under the direction of Bill Oliver, and we had 63 participants, which was fantastic after a hiatus. Let's see. One more thing I've shared with you in the past about working towards an MOU with Buena Vista City Schools. We have a memorandum of understanding with Rockbridge County to have access to their gymnasiums at certain times, Lexington City. At certain times, we'd always not had an MOU with Buena Vista, but now we have an MOU, and that provides some clarity for when RARO and the families and volunteer coaches have access to those gymnasiums. So that concludes my report from RARO. I'm happy to take any questions.
Is the hunter safety course, is it an extracurricular endeavor or is it something that is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm curious what constitutes an older age bracket for flag football.
So good question. So we have really good numbers at 6 and 7 years old, really good numbers at 8, 9, and we've been trying to mirror our flag football offerings the same as tackle football. which means we were offering all of the age groups, which meant we were having 10 and 11, 12-year-old, those ages, but there was not an interest at that age group. What we feel is that potentially the kids that played flag football as 6 and 7-year-olds, and if they loved football, that maybe after a year or two of flag football, their parents were putting them into tackle football and they weren't still deciding to keep playing flag football as they got older, or they may have just decided to play lacrosse or soccer or something else. But it was important to us to give families that option if there was that need in the community, but we only had minimal signups.
What tennis courts are Rara using?
I believe W&L allowed us to use I believe it was the lower courts,
Okay, good.
We had family from Gloucester who had softball team down there in Alabama, and they said it was super hot. They remembered the Rockbridge Lexington BB team and said that they were quite impressive. Despite the heat, they really were impressed.
Oh.
Great group of girls.
One important comment that Raro is tracking, and maybe the rest of you, on Monday at the Board of Supervisors meeting, I believe they will discuss moving forward to look at financing options for the auxiliary gym and the rec center. This is not the final vote, but it's to kind of restart that process that they ended previously, where they would essentially re-engage with Davenport or council to evaluate financing options. So this is not the definitive vote, but it would be a vote to start spending money again to evaluate possible financing options for that project. So that's on Monday. But that concludes my report, and I'm happy to kick it to either Ms. Alexander or Mr. Betts for Threshold.
Threshold met on July 22nd, and the meeting focused on housing initiatives, including updates on land bank, homeowner helper program, and the housing symposium work groups that formed last fall. And there haven't been any outcomes as a result of that group yet, but still working on it. When we discussed the forming of a land bank, we talked about its potential structure, the funding, and the legal process involved in acquiring and rehabilitating distressed properties, reviewing the role of land banks in addressing vacant and neglected homes, the challenges of funding and prioritizing properties, and the possibility of using existing entities like Threshold to help with the process. Our city manager is actually working on a policy paper regarding land banks, and to know the difference between regarding land trust versus land bank, the preference is the land bank, as a land trust for us is too complicated for our resources, and we don't have the land necessary to pull that off as well. I won't go into the actual details of the land bank, but if anyone ever has questions, you could direct them to Threshold staff and to the members, and we could try to explain that to you. The meeting also covered CDBG grant for housing rehab, eligibility criteria, and the administrative process. We are considering this grant opportunity where CERCAP would be the administrator. We've tried not to impose extra tasks and requirements upon our staff that we don't have. So we try to find opportunities where we could partner with others, and that's one of them. Updates were given on efforts to find contractors for the homeowner helper program, and the importance of requiring homeowners insurance was emphasized. There were 2 ads in the paper seeking contractors for repair work, and there was a suggestion that we may need to look outside of the immediate area for contractors who are not located here, but still do a large amount of business here locally. We discussed this particular application involving co-ownership of multiple family members and a repayment process, and how to handle such cases as that. So we're running into situations that are unique, that were not basic to when we were developing the policy. So we're going back to see how we can establish policy in regard to those unique circumstances. The next meeting, we'll talk about adding homeowner insurance requirements to our homeowner helper manual and the application. especially coverage for acts of nature at least a minimum to have some insurance. And we will talk about Thompson's Knoll and our history with that development. And that is all.
Thank you. Any questions? Moving forward, I'd like to bring a few appointments to you all for your consideration. First, we've been discussing the tree board and reconstituting the tree board for a little while. I'd love to appoint four people total to 3-year terms. The individuals would be Chuck Newhouse, David Agner, John Driscoll, and Shannon Spencer. And I believe you've all seen their applications, and those would be 3-year terms. That would leave a 5th spot where we could receive an applicant, or those 4 might evaluate their own talents and see who they might need to join them, who they're looking for. But essentially, get a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Betts?
Aye.
Ms. Strawn?
Aye.
Ms. Alexander?
Aye.
Excellent. Thank you very much to those 4 individuals. They'll work with our arborist, Mr. Ulrich. I'd also like to bring to your, for your consideration, appointing Mr. John Driscoll to the Central Shenandoah Planning District Commission. Obviously, Mayor Freeman served Lexington extremely well on that commission. But Mayor Freeman was talking to John about eventually taking over. And so John is ready and able and obviously immensely qualified to do so. And so I'd love to bring his name forward.
So moved.
Second.
Excellent. May I do a roll call vote? Mr. Betts? Ms. Strawn?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Alexander?
Aye.
Great. Thank you very much. And then I would love to appoint Mr. Tom Carroll to the Shenandoah Valley Partnership to a 2-year term that I believe ends July 31st, 2028.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
Excellent. Roll call vote. Ms. Strawn?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Betts? Ms. Alexander?
Aye.
Thank you very much. We do have a few other openings that we know of right now. We've got the Rockbridge Area Network Authority. We have Blue Ridge Resource Authority. We also have an important opening coming up on social services. Mr. Gilmore has served extremely well for two terms. He's unable to continue for a third, but we're evaluating. Well, I'm taking feedback, quite honestly, from anyone with suggestions. Our representative is Camille Miller, and I'm happy to entertain and talk to anyone that you want me to talk to about that. But that's we'll bring more names forward in the future.
I believe Threshold has an opening as well.
Yes, you do. Yes. So let me know if you want me to talk to someone, or please talk. You can feel free to recruit also.
Sounds good.
All right.
Hopefully there's lots of people that might be listening tonight that could be interested. in
Yes.
Some of
And,
these.
and we obviously have really uniquely qualified individuals that we're going to talk to later tonight for an opening on city council. And we also have these other openings to, as ways to serve in the community. So that's a good point. Thank you. Thank you, Nick. We'll get to my interim mayor's report, just a couple of quick items. Last night, VMI hosted city council for a work session in Smith Hall with the superintendent. We also received an overview of the capital construction program. It was a really great meeting. We met for about an hour and 15 minutes. General Furness was very forthcoming with his goals. We learned a lot about the construction. It was just a really positive meeting. General Furness highlighted how VMI does contribute annually funds to the city to help us buy rescue equipment. For example, the Tower 9, our ladder truck that cost $1.73 million. And so today I did thank General Furness for his hosting us last night. And I did extend an invitation to him if he would ever like to see what $1.7 million buys you in the form of a ladder truck. We would love to host him at the fire department. And since we also oftentimes have a lot of cadet EMTs that are volunteering, he'd get to see where a lot of the cadets spend their time away from barracks serving the community. Earlier this week, I attended convocation at Lexington City Schools, and on behalf of City Council, I welcomed the teachers and staff back to start the year. The teachers will welcome the children back on August 12th, next week. And also next week, as we learned, matriculation for VMI, when VMI hopes to accept, bring for the first time 500 to 515 or 20 incoming rats on Saturday, August 15th.
25.
Yeah, let's hope 525. That's they're aiming for it. And then lastly, today I took a quick detour to Buena Vista and introduced myself and welcomed Crystal Onitis, their city manager, to the area, and welcomed her on behalf of Lexington City Council. She was getting ready for her first city council meeting tonight, and it's also my first meeting sitting to Marilyn's right. So she and I have that in common, but she's glad to be here. And I just wanted her to have that connectivity to Lexington immediately. So that really concludes my report. And I'd love to kick it now to the city manager. You have several items. One of them does require action by council.
Thank you, Mayor. There are 3 reports in your council packet, and I'd like to, with your indulgence, talk about the 4th one. I sent a memorandum earlier today regarding Lime Kiln Bridge Park. So I'm going to ask my colleague Brinsley to pull that up. And in the meantime, while it's being pulled up, I want to discuss first item 13.1, Lee Avenue and Washington Street Utilities Undergrounding Project. As is explained in the memorandum, the goal of this project, it's about a $1.5 million project, but it would bury the utility lines, the overhead power lines, telephone lines, on Lee Avenue, basically from Kaisai to Washington Street, and all of the remaining lines on Washington Street from, say, the Williams Business School building, all the way down to Jefferson in front of Alvin Dennis. That project, the city would be the holder of the contract. It would be done in coordination and cooperation with Washington and Lee. We think burying utilities is going to further enhance the rest of the downtown. We know that where we have buried utilities 40 or 50 years ago, it's the most picturesque and historic appearances of our community. So we'd like to, as we get ready to renegotiate a franchise with Dominion, start to bury lines again. And this would be the first project that we would do this. In addition to assisting our partner at Washington and Lee, this project is helpful to the city of Lexington because, as is explained in the memorandum, and as you may recall, about 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, we borrowed $22.5 million for various projects in our 2025 series bonds. We have to expend those bonds by March 25th of 2027. Otherwise, any interest that we have earned above what we are paying in interest is remitted back to the IRS. I would rather not remit any funds back to the Internal Revenue Service. So our endeavor would be to make sure that we're putting all those funds that we borrow to work. And we have done a great job doing that with the DSS project, City Hall, and with the Diamond Street Water and Sewer project. We have been a little tardy getting the Jackson Avenue Phase 1 water and sewer utility project out. That project starts next month. But by the time March 25th rolls around, it'll be, if we're fortunate, only half done. So we are looking for other ways to put to good work lawfully the bond proceeds that we have borrowed. This is a major project that would allow us to do that. A $1.5 million project is the conservative budget estimate. And so because this is not identified in our capital improvement program for FY27, I'm asking council, if you concur, to adopt a motion that would authorize this. There will be future actions for appropriations that will be needed whenever Jen tells me they're needed. And I trust her to let me know when I'm getting too far ahead of her. But I would ask if you're in agreement with this project that you consider a motion to that effect.
How much bond proceeds would be, or bond funds would be left if this project was, I guess, undertaken? Would they use the remainder of them?
We're going to use it all.
On the
Jen, if you
project.
want to describe some of the other areas, or I can, but you'll get it closer to the correct.
So a couple of other things that we are going to use the bond funds for are in FY26, we paved several parking lots. I believe that total was, I have it right here, it's $287,000. And excuse me, and parking lots are not eligible for State Street funds to be used. So we charged that to the bond. Then we have the WNL underground utilities project. And also we decided to go ahead and expand our I&I work. And so we're going to be able to cover the full 750,000 we had budgeted for FY 27 with bond funds. And then in addition, we opened it up a little bit so that we would be able to, I guess, repair, replace, upgrade, many of the manholes throughout the city. And I believe that's everything that we had added at this point. The only other thing I would state is the landscaping for City Hall, which was not a part of the original budget. But we did go ahead and decide to move forward with that to the tune of $400,000. We'll be able to cover that with bond proceeds as well.
Will, I guess all those projects will be between those projects, everything will be used. Okay.
Yes, that's our plan.
So the I&I number was 750,000. Okay. I wanted to highlight that number because the return on that spending is well needed by the city. For those not familiar, I&I is when we get water in our wastewater lines that goes to waste treatment that we have to pay for, and the less water that infiltrates into our wastewater lines, the less water that has to be treated at the wastewater treatment plant. So in the end, it does save us money. It's
And if
money spent.
If I could add to that, part of the $750,000 that we've set aside for that I&I work is to do an analysis as to what our return on investment is, how well it's all working for us. So we'll be able to report that to you later this year.
Certainly no fun to pay to treat rainwater that infiltrates our sewer pipes. That is not very good business, not good use of our funds. But are there any other questions about this agenda item about the burying of utilities? I mean, from my perspective, every time we pave any road downtown, the public says, are you coordinating with getting the utilities underground? And I've been on council for a long time now, and to have this opportunity to kind of restart this program when people that have been in Lexington a long time remember when this was done initially, and it really kicked off downtown, improving in the way it looks. And so it's kind of neat to have this chance.
Probably makes the sidewalks easier to navigate, yes.
True.
And I think burying the sidewalk or burying the power lines was part of our downtown improvement plan. That was kind of that part was sort of kicked off to the side just because it was just too expensive to undertake, and now we have the means to do that. So I'll put forward an endorsement of getting the lines down per the city manager's request.
So that's a motion.
Second.
Excellent. We'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Betts, Ms. Strawn, Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Ms. Alexander. Thank you very much. And I guess you will be bringing more items related to that forward to us.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. The next item is a report about our evolving plans for return to City Hall. Basically, we think City Hall is going to be turned back to the city sometime in late September, early October, but we're going to move back to City Hall. We're presently the 18 or 19 employees who work out of City Hall are in 3 separate locations. We're going to do a phased return. And so the group that's working out of 539 Nelson Street will move back in October. The registrar will move back sometime after the election because of requirement in Virginia that the Office of Civil Rights for the Attorney General has to approve any change of polling location. We won't even initiate that until after the November 3rd election. And then the treasurer wants to stay in her current location, and I support that until after December 5th, which is the day that property taxes are due. This is your first reminder that December 5th is when your property taxes are due for the first half of the fiscal year. And so there'll be a bit of a rolling back to City Hall as we're starting to work through items like when we will do a dedication ceremony. I think it's going to be once all the staff are back, we'll be able to do a rededication ceremony. I think we'll want to do an open house once City Hall staff start to go back in October, so that the public who will be coming in to conduct business we want to invite the entire public in to at least see the space, even though we won't all be back in our space. No action is needed on this this evening. This is just for informational purposes only.
How are we doing on the lease? Are we moving out earlier than the lease, or where are we with the lease on 539?
539, we will be moving out 5 to 6 months early.
Okay.
And so I intend to reach out to the landlord and see if there's any discussion that we can have about that.
Great.
Again, no action is needed this evening.
No action needed. For the public, I'd encourage you to read this agenda item if you haven't already. The city manager does an excellent job just kind of laying out all the moving parts. And when you're dealing with constitutional officers, the treasurer, the commissioner of the revenue, you're dealing with elections. That is way more complicated than dealing with the finance department that does report to the city manager or the planning office. When you've got constitutional officers, you have a whole other list of requirements and things to weigh. And so it's an excellently written memo to share with the public all that's going into this consideration. And I'll also highlight one of the items that he mentioned in the memo is the contractor that has worked on City Hall. He writes has been excellent to work with, and so here in Lexington, I think we always feel good to know that we have worked with a very good contractor. And this company is called Wall Construction. They're out of Madison Heights, I believe. And I think that makes us all feel good that our dollars are expended well with a good contractor working on City Hall. So go to the next item.
I thought you were going
Oh.
to highlight the photographs and the student artwork that'll be in the building as well. That was appreciated to be included.
True. Yes.
Thank you.
And I think we're going with the original floors refurbished per Mayor Freeman's suggestion.
Yes, when we had our most recent tour, you're exactly right. Some of the flooring cannot be saved, if you will, on maybe the second floor or some areas. But the entryway foyer, the floors were a little bit rough, but I think the mayor had a little vision that said, hey, I think we can bring these back. And Wall Construction, I think they took that as a challenge. And they said that they could do something with those floors. And so we're excited that the mayor suggested that we're making it happen.
Mayor Friedman certainly did phrase it in the form of suggestion. I took it as a directive and I was happy to oblige. And I think when we walk on them, we'll certainly be reminded of his vision. The next item that I wanted to report on is the Morris Creek Dam. I won't get too much into the details of this project, but we have worked out all the intergovernmental issues with our partners at Rockbridge County that will allow us to move forward for the decommissioning of this dam. I've laid out in the memorandum a schedule that has construction of that project starting in about this time next year. That's, of course, if everything goes well and the regulating entities approve our plans. We have been successful, and I want to recognize colleagues at Public Works who have obtained a $500,000 Department of Conservation and Recreation grant. That's double what we had anticipated in our FY27 budget. We had anticipated a $250,000 grant. They got double that. So thank you to Patrick Madigan, Scott Dameron, Doug Sesson, and Thomas Wagner. In addition, we are pursuing federal funding with the State Department of Forest and the U.S. Forest Service. We would be a sub-recipient of ultimately federal funds that stem from Hurricane Helene. The hole that is the concern in the dam, the sinkhole, is manifested just days after Hurricane Helene came through the Shenandoah Valley. And so we're optimistic that we will receive funding, perhaps up to the entire $3 million. We would have some matching funds that would be required, and we're hoping that the state DCR grant could be used as matching funds for the federal funds. There's ways that we can hopefully successfully leverage $1 against another for the benefit of the ratepayers in Lexington. I simply brought this forward at this time just to keep you informed, but also to point out that some of the conversation with the State Department of Forestry is that if we are successful in partnering with them for the decommissioning, that I would recommend we gift the land to them. As you know, the liquidation of property is a legislative action. It's not something that I can promise. It's not something that any four of you can do. It takes a supermajority of council to authorize the sale of city property. As you may recall, in 2008, Lexington sold about 2,300 acres of land to the Department of Forest, which is now Morris Creek State Forest, excuse me. This is the one remaining piece. We have about 60 acres in the center of that state forest. Turning it over to the state makes sense and would fulfill our obligation to Rockbridge County that we made in the May 26th agreement. The reason I bring this forward is simply to make sure that you're aware of the kind of exchange of concepts and value that we're contemplating with the State Department of Forestry. If you have any concerns about that, not an action this evening, it's a future legislative action. But if you have any concerns about this approach, I'd like to have those voiced and be able to work with the state to try and resolve those sooner than later.
No concerns. I think it's a great idea. I was just wondering, last time around, do you know how much we sold it for?
I don't, but I also am told, but I haven't researched it yet, that we received very little of the money because, and it's some convoluted way in which I think much of the money went to Rockbridge County as a result of the deal. So I haven't researched it yet, but I don't think we benefited greatly financially from the sale.
And that's what I just wanted to make sure there was a precedent that we didn't do it so much for the money as for keeping it forest land.
When I joined RARO back in 2014, 15, we were starting to work on the annex at Brubaker Field, and I seem to recall that being told that some of the proceeds from the sale of that Morris Creek from the forest was used to purchase the property that was Brubaker Annex, and so it was not a great amount, that the city may have received. But I'm sure Doug can probably correct us or give us the correct facts. But no action item on that. But any questions, please direct them to the city manager. We do need to be on the same page on this if it requires a supermajority. But
A gift, I guess, would mean there'd be wouldn't need as much upkeep. I mean, I don't know how much upkeep we need out there anyway, but also that's one thing to think about. Also decrease liability as well.
Thank you. An item that's not on the agenda, I'm sorry, Councilmember Strawn, did you have a question? Okay. I want to provide some information about Limekiln Bridge Park. And there's a graphic that my colleague Lynn Brinsley has brought forward. And this focuses in on the Limekiln Bridge Park area. So towards the top of the photograph, or the aerial photograph, is Limekiln Road. And in the center is Limekiln Bridge Park. The street that's going on a bias towards the upper right is McLaughlin Street. And what this graphic shows is an orange area, which is going to be used by the contractor for the replacement of the Limekiln Bridge. That's going to be fenced off and secured for their site control, for the staging of their crane, for their equipment and materials that they're storing. We're essentially giving them all of the street of Limekiln Road between McLaughlin and the bridge itself, and a little bit of the park. And so some of the equipment within the park is going to have to be removed, and that part of the park is going to be obviously closed for the duration of that bridge project. That project is scheduled to start in September. There's a decent chance that it won't start until December. The contractor is seeking to put in a temporary pedestrian bridge on the upstream side of Limekiln Bridge. If they do that, they'll be able to cut about 3 to 4 months off of that project schedule. Whichever approach they take, whether they're allowed to do the pedestrian bridge on the side or whether they have to keep a portion of the bridge open itself, which is required by federal funding requirements, the project will be done in November of 2027. Okay, so there's going to be a period of time from anywhere from September to December where Limekiln Bridge is going to be closed for vehicular traffic for, anywhere from 12 to 11, from 11 to 14 months. In addition, when we give them that area of the roadway, you will see that at 401 Limekiln Bridge, which is Limekiln Road, There's a lawyer's office, which has about 4 parking spaces that are visible in this aerial photograph that are right on Limekiln Road, and those spaces will be inaccessible to that business. So we are going to provide that business 4 spaces. There'll be temporary spaces inside Limekiln Bridge Park. It's kind of indicated with the white area right outside of the contractor's construction fence. That's what we would do for anyone who's as inconvenienced as they will be for the duration of this project. So we will be actually having cars that will be going into what is now on the other side of the split rail fence. We'll make that secure, but I'm concerned, as always, about having vehicles entering what is typically thought of as a park space. In addition, there's an orange line in between the construction fence and the white parking area, where that will be a pedestrian pathway along the outside of the construction fence that will allow somebody who crosses that pedestrian bridge to come up to McLaughlin, where they can head into downtown or head up towards White Street or towards Waddell Elementary. They'll be able to do the same thing by getting on, the Woods Creek Trail, but that's an easier access road for them to take. And again, these are requirements of federal contracting that pedestrian access be maintained during construction. In addition, I'll draw your attention to the green line, which is sort of in the center and lower portion of the aerial photograph. That is related to the city's project. That is the $3.5 million Jackson Avenue Phase 1 project, which is water, sewer, and stormwater utilities, all of which are going to be upgraded and replaced. So why is that important? Because during our project, we'll have our contractor starting at the lower portion, putting in a couple of manholes and cutting right across Limekiln Bridge Park in order to put that what's labeled new sewer main on that portion of the park. So for a portion of time, the park is going to have to be closed effectively. We have 2 separate contractors working very close proximity and very little park in between. So there's very little that we can do for the safety of anyone who's using the park, but to close that. We will almost certainly have to remove a couple of park assets because they're in conflict with the alignment of the sewer line. It's mainly a slide and a park bench, and it will go across the gravel parking area. We don't have to take out immediately some other park assets. There's a spiral slide, there's toddler swings, bucket swings. I think there's a merry-go-round type apparatus and a little horsey type situation, which I'm not a fan of because they have springs and children have lost fingers in between springs during motion. Ours has a safety feature on, which is a piece of PVC pipe, but I'm not a big fan of that. All of that park equipment is vintage, I guess I'll say. It's antiquated. It's lovely, and it reminds me of stuff that I played on as a kid and my kids played on. But there are more modern play sets that we should be investing in for the children. This is a pre-K area, so we want modern and optimally safe equipment. All of this is to say that while I've heard a number of concerns about the closure of Limekiln Bridge, I am more than happy to leave it open as we can do so safely. I'm more than happy to say that we'll have the contractor for the city's project, which is Randy Hofstetter Excavating, stage their materials elsewhere, and I'm happy to commit that we'll have them stage their materials or the next contractor for phase 2, 3, 4, and 5 someplace else, in light of the concerns that we've heard about the park. Happy to do that. A portion of the park is going to have to be closed for the duration of the Limekiln Bridge project, and a portion of it's going to have to be closed for the sewer line. And if at any point we become concerned for the safety of people using the park, we'll close the park down out of safety consideration. It is entirely for the safety of the children and anyone else using the parks, as well as for the safety of the workers who are working in those 2 locations. And so I just wanted to share that with you. I think Brinsley has put this information out on city's website and social media. And so I'm just happy to share this information and further discuss the logic that went into this approach.
I'm trying to remember what playground it was, but we had some WNL students talk to us about, was it that playground?
It was.
So that when we get past this project, it might be good to maybe take a look back at that, and that might give us some ideas.
Absolutely. We did have, you're right. We had WNL students evaluate that. They may have evaluated it without a budget. I mean, just in full disclosure. So some of their ideas were, really, really cool, but a little, very, very expensive.
And I think they
But
gave us a couple different
They
options,
did.
like
they did
more-
surveys. They
yeah.
did a good job, but that was one caveat that it was like the budget. So just in full disclosure, but good memory on that.
If we don't use this area as a laydown yard, where will we have a laydown yard?
I'm gonna have to get back to you on that. The contractor, it's his responsibility to determine where he stores his equipment and stages his vehicles. I wasn't at the pre-construction meeting, so I'm not sure what the plan was. This would certainly be preferable, I think, and easier for the contractor, but it's not a requirement. And if people are concerned about the closure of the park, we're happy to accommodate. But I'll get back to you on that location.
Okay, and I would just say, I mean, there's 5 pieces of play equipment there right now. And if you walk 2 blocks to the south, you can go to Waddell. If you walk a couple blocks west, you can go to Fairwinds Park that are in much better condition and much more options, and particularly with the construction is much safer. I'm also concerned that if we don't use this area as a laydown yard, it'll be somewhere further away, and we're going to have trucks going through neighborhoods at a higher frequency than if we have the laydown yard near the construction area. So I appreciate you trying to accommodate some of the folks that are concerned about it, but I honestly don't feel like it's in the best interest of our kids to do it that way. I mean, I think the original plan might have been a little bit surprising, but I think it's the safest option. And I think for the overall neighborhood, it'll work out better having the laydown yard closer to the construction. But that's my 2 cents if you want to see how it works out. But I think we're going to do a lot of effort to save some equipment we're going to replace anyway.
Will moving the laydown to other areas impact the cost of the project?
It won't impact costs. No, sir.
I think once people see, if we go ahead and use this as the laydown for equipment and supplies, people will see how dangerous it would be if they had been able to have their children so close in proximity to the construction site. Like Leslie, I mean, we have the access at Waddell and we have access at Fairwinds. Now, I don't know if Fairwinds has toddler equipment or not, but it's something we could check on.
Yeah, I just drove by there before the meeting and it's very similar. They have that plus more.
Okay.
I would say we just appreciate the city's thoughtfulness in looking at this area. One thing that I'm trying to be very clear about is this is major construction in this area. There's no way to sugarcoat the impact on this neighborhood when you replace a bridge and you start going after water and sewer. Other parts of the city have lived through that construction. Main Street lived through that construction, you might recall. Now it's coming to this part of the city. It's going to be horrible. Let's just go ahead and say it. And then if it's a little bit better than horrible, you can thank me for being too negative. But construction is difficult, but it's important that we do it. It's got to get done quickly and safely. And I think it's good on this council that put this in motion a good 10 or 12 years ago, that we would continue to chip away at these underground utilities. So thank you to the city manager and to Public Works for being very thoughtful in your plans, but let's set expectations low for how this construction is going to impact. You know, it's going to be rough. So I just want to be very clear on that.
I think the other side of that coin, though, is that we're going to have some good infrastructure once
Oh.
this is all done. So
100%. You're right.
I mean, we might have to take the heat now for comments that we may not feel are very comfortable to take, but we need to keep in mind that the final product will be something that everybody can be proud of. And considering the safety of the bridge is of the utmost importance.
Thank you for bringing this forward. And again, thanks for your consideration and everything.
It's the end of my report. Unless you have any questions, I'd really rather turn it over to Carol.
All right, City Attorney, Mr. Carroll.
Thank you. Just a couple items. I did want to let everyone know, and I think you're aware, of course, but after the last meeting, we did file the requisite petition and draft order for the local optional sales tax, and that order was entered, and I've confirmed with the registrar, everything's squared away for that to be on the ballot. We also did timely file the petition for the mayoral special election, and that obviously that order also was entered. And so all of that is set in motion appropriately. One thing I did want to mention with regard to the current vacancy on city council, as we've discussed, the process is similar or nearly identical to that for filling the mayoral vacancy. 30 days to fill the vacancy. You have to identify the pool of potential candidates 7 days in advance. There is, of course, no special election down the line with regard to that position. The position that is vacant was already scheduled to be filled through an election this November. So the code does not call for a special election in this instance. You just go forward with the election as planned. And so the individual who is appointed to that vacancy will actually serve through December 31st and would finish out that entire term. And the new person elected in November would take over in January. That obviously is different than we discussed with regard to the mayor, where the interim mayor will be in the position until the person at the special election qualifies, or elected at the special election qualifies. If that's confusing, let me know. I just thought it was important to, as I was thinking about the order that was entered for the mayoral special election, I just wanted to make it clear there was not a special election for the council vacancy. Other items we've been working on are some contracts with the police department and the public works. We fielded some questions from the registrar about election issues and fielded some questions from the Commissioner of Revenue about business license issues. Upcoming work, now that the sprinkler program is getting underway, Jen sent me an email, and we're going to get together and make sure that the way the program is unfolding is consistent with the documents, and that everything is in order for seamless and smooth recording of anything that's required to be recorded, and all that is in order. So brief report, but happy to answer any questions you have about those or any other items.
Anything going on with Brightspeed and tourism?
Nothing much. I'm not going to say they're doing anything wrong. I know
Sure.
I'm trying to coordinate on our end with Cheryl as well. And so there's just been some email traffic trying to get everything arranged, and candidly, I want to make sure from Cheryl that nothing has changed on our
We're still just
end.
going month to month on
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
Okay,
Nothing negative to
Sure.
report for sure.
great. Thanks.
I will ask a question. And so going one step farther with the scenario, we have mayor candidates and we have city council candidates. Right now, just three city council candidates on the ballot for 3 seats. And I know at least David's and probably Nick are running for mayor. Just under the scenario that David wins both mayor and city council, he would pick one. And then we would appoint somebody to fill in for city council in January.
In January, there
Right.
would be a vacancy in the position, and then we would go through the process again.
And so then that person who's appointed would run in a special
There
election
would be a special election
in
at that
November,
point.
November of that year. Okay.
It may not wait till November. It's possible it could be scheduled. It could be scheduled beforehand. Wouldn't necessarily have to be, but could be.
You could do a special election. Sooner, or-
There are some mechanisms where you can do them over the summer, for example. But it's not the most efficient for expenditure of money,
Right.
and it is also not the most prudent for maximizing turnout. So
Right.
it's not encouraged, but there is a mechanism for doing it.
Okay. Thank you.
So if David were to win, there would potentially be another appointment and another election.
Likely a special election in November. So the appointment would last for the better part of a year.
If someone else were to win, what would happen? The new person would come on as soon as the election was certified. And so would that create another council vacancy for a month? Would we need to fill that or anything?
No, because the vacancy, there wouldn't be a vacancy. Well, Depends on who won, I guess.
Right.
If
So like if I were to win,
you were to win, then yes, it would create a 1 month vacancy.
would that
could be
need,
filled.
would that need to be filled?
You have 30 days to fill vacancies under your charter. So if it's more than 30, then you're supposed to fill it.
Could you appoint, say, David to that?
Certainly.
Okay.
You could appoint any qualified voter in the city.
Sure. All right, thanks.
No questions? Sorry. Mean to go down a rabbit hole.
It's very complicated.
It is.
Well, we're now going to go into another complicated process, so please keep me in line. We're going to discuss, we first have to announce, I believe, the pool of candidates. I believe they're here. I'm going to just share publicly. We have had a total of 8 applicants for the position, the 4-month term on city council. One of the applicants has withdrawn when they realized the time commitment. So we actually have 6 then of the 7 remaining applicants here. All of those applicants, every applicant has received 3 questions in advance. Our goal was to have you put your best foot forward. Come here tonight, speak to us. You received those 3 questions in advance. We would like to invite the applicants up in reverse alphabetical order. That means that Mr. Lyons will go first, then Ms. Joyce Hayes, then Mr. Hopkins, then Mr. Gooden, then Mr. Davis, and then Mr. Ayers. So we will have one person come up at a time. I'll read the questions. I'll just go ahead and read the questions. After you maybe have heard the questions a few times, if I don't need to keep reading them, that's fine, but I'm happy to keep reading them to each of the applicants. But I believe so that we follow the letter of the law here, Mr. Carroll, we should go ahead and potentially identify the pool of candidates now.
You can do it now, or you can do it after the
I would
application.
prefer to do it now, if that's okay. We were accepting applications until noon today. And so I'd ask, I've already listed the names. If you'd like me to list them again, or if you have them, I'd love for council to make a motion to that effect. Any
Motion.
questions if you do?
Motion to approve the list of candidates as the pool of candidates for the city council vacancy.
Second.
Thank you very much. And I'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Betts.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Ms. Strawn.
Aye.
Ms. Alexander.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. And again, here's going to be the order. It'll be Mr. Lyons, Ms. Joyce Hayes, Mr. Hopkins, Mr. Gooden, Mr. Davis, and Mr. Ayers. The other candidate, Mr. Alexander, is not here. He submitted written answers. He's in our 7 identified pool of candidates. So I'll go ahead and invite Mr. Lyons forward. I'm not putting a time limit on you, on either of you, anyone on your answers. I did give you those questions ahead of time though, so that you were focused and able to answer them directly. And definitely talk into that microphone like I reminded you before. But here are the 3 questions. I'll go ahead and read them all, Mr. Lyons, and then please tell us a little bit about yourself and explain what motivated you to apply for an appointment to City Council for the next 4 months. The second question is, what skills, experiences, or perspectives do you believe would allow you to contribute effectively during this 4-month appointment? And the final question is, please describe a time when you worked collaboratively with people who held differing viewpoints or disagreed with you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'll give a couple opening points. Colonel Bubar in the back said I had 30 minutes, so I'm not going to take that completely.
On each question.
On each question, yeah. There's other ones for that, right? 2, Coach Perry was down in Florence. It's the home of the University of North Alabama, which is also a college town surrounded and landlocked by a community, home of the Lions, but spelled with an I, just so you know. And then the third, I was a little nervous today coming up here to do this, but I just went to Livermore Downing for my daughter's 6th grade orientation with Dr. Kesey. And so I'm clear to go for this situation compared to that. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Well, for those that you know me and don't know me, my name is Jesse Lyons. I have lived here since 2002. I made a college visit to Lexington in the fall, December actually, of 2000 and fell in love with the town. I decided I want to build a life here when I moved here for a 1-year job that turned into 25 now. And I did just that. I married my wife, Tracy, 15 years ago. We're raising our two kids, Anna Lee, 11, going into 6th grade, and Ford, going into 4th grade, 9 years old at Waddell, both in city schools. Spent my career with Cap Alpha Order and the Cap Alpha Order Educational Foundation, which moved here in 1986 and has been a great corporate citizen for 40 years. I'm now the Chief External Affairs Officer for those organizations, and I'm heading into my 25th year with that organization. What motivated me to apply is pretty simple. Apart from the events of this summer, which were what put me over the edge to make this decision. This is a short defined window where the city needs someone who can step in, get up to speed quickly, and make sound judgment calls. No agenda for the next election. I've spent 2.5 decades navigating governance, budget, competing interests at a national organization level. And I just frankly enjoy public service in different ways. I've been with the JCs, Mountain City Masonic Lodge, and many other organizations, initiatives, and meetings here in town. And it's really the most rewarding stuff that I've done. This felt like a natural way to put my experience to work for the town that has given my family so much, and it's theirs now. To put it a little bit further, I love Lexington. I love the community. I love Rockbridge, and I love all the parts about it. I like that there's differing opinions. I like that there's differing views. I love that there's people from all backgrounds, locals, transplanted locals, and folks that come here transient for a couple years. And my wife and I have decided this is where we want to stay. Now, what skills, experiences, and perspectives would I bring? A 4-month appointment doesn't give you much time for a learning curve. You have to be useful almost immediately, and I think that's where I can certainly add value. Running communications, budget oversight, governance, board relations for my organization, which is a national multi-entity organization, means I'm used to working a room. I'm used to understanding the stakes quickly and helping a group move forward toward a workable decision, which I've seen here tonight. I'd like to point out one project. I won't have time to discuss 7 years of running the JCs way before this era of my lifetime, or 5 years running Fridays Alive. Friday night's the last one, I think. Make sure everybody goes to it, which contributed tens of thousands of dollars to maybe organizations and causes that I haven't volunteered for or been on a board for, but certainly supported. But recently, many of you will recall, I will point out the courthouse square renovation, which is certainly something that you have to look past to support at the beginning to see what the future is going to hold for it, just like the project you just discussed. This project coordinated public and private stakeholders, funding sources, and community expectations all at once. And that's about as close to a multi-year capital project for the municipality as you can get outside of sitting on council. On top of that, all the other communications work and day-to-day civic involvement for the past 25 years have given me what I've had. I'll continue on. A time that you worked with people who disagreed with you. I can't think of any time that I've worked on a project where people disagreed. Oh, the Courthouse Square project was a renovation example that was good here too. And I say that jokingly because pretty much I lead with humor, because why not? There's a lot of seriousness in the world. But from the beginning, an unstated mission of that project, and I'm not going to speak for the other people on the project because they're not here, was to end up with generally everybody being very proud and happy. And that means the city, the county, the community, the business owners, community folks, outside areas, conservationists, you name it. And folks came in with legitimately different priorities and legitimately different concerns, which we listened to, and ultimately were able to generally accommodate. Business owners worried about disruption, parking. Preservation-minded folks were concerned about changing something historic, and funders wanted to see their dollars reflected in visible results. There are also folks that didn't want it to change, and we had to work through what that change looked like, and that change turned out pretty darn well. Something I'll be on the record to say that I'm pretty darn proud of for the city, the county, and everybody involved. Everybody was right, though, from their own vantage point. Nobody was wrong from their vantage point, which is exactly the kind of situation you just can't pick a side and push through. Those times you have to reserve for the really most important times, right? You can't just push through on these projects. My approach was to slow down, hear everybody and what they needed and what was protected. Officially, it wasn't the position they stated, but it was something underneath, something they felt about, like a merchant's fear of losing a season of foot traffic, or often once people heard that it was easier to find trade-offs, phasing construction, finding different things that they could get in there, we found consensus and we moved forward. And ultimately, I hope we have a project we're proud of. those are the end of my prepared remarks, but I'll end with just 4 points because I'm marketing communications at the core. I love the community and where we serve. I see a need and I think I can fulfill it. And at the end of the day, I finished a book and I remember quite clearly that if you're find joy in everything you do, and I find joy in serving for the city. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and members of council.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lyons. Appreciate it. Then we'll invite up Ms. Joyce Hayes. I'll remind you of the questions if you'd like. It's please tell us a little bit about yourself and explain what motivated you to apply for an appointment to city council for the next 4 months. What skills, experiences, or perspectives do you believe would allow you to contribute effectively during this 4-month appointment? And then please describe a time when you worked collaboratively with people who held differing viewpoints or disagreed with you. Thank you for being here tonight.
Good evening, everyone. I think you have my name as Dreama Joyce Hayes. I always ask people to call me Dee. When I hear Dreama, that reminds me of my mother or my teachers when I was in trouble. So please don't call me Dreama. Address me as Dee. I want to say, as far as the school goes, that was Ruffner School when I grew up here. And I had the privilege of helping scuff up that front hall floor. So I'm glad they're going to keep it and fix it. Thank you. I was born and raised here, went out to the College of Women Mary at 18. And after I graduated with a degree in government, I moved to Washington, D.C., where probably the last and most significant position I held there was as special assistant to the deputy undersecretary. I did special projects. I helped write speeches. I was green as green could be, but it was a great job. I met my husband, my then husband, in Washington, and married and moved to St. Louis because he was a native there. After a first number of years of helping him get through law school because we couldn't afford to go at the same time. So I worked in banking at that point. I began St. Louis University Law School in 1977. After graduation, I became an assistant, and I'm going to tell you this. In St. Louis, the prosecuting attorney, or the Commonwealth attorney, as you know it here, is called a circuit attorney. So don't be confused. It goes back to history where that attorney wrote a circuit. That's like a circuit judge. Anyway, I began there as an assistant prosecutor. And over the years, I moved up to be the first assistant prosecutor. And when my boss decided not to run again, I got involved in politics. So I ran for 2 terms and won for 2 terms. I administered an office of 50 lawyers. I always like to say I administered an office of 50 prima donnas. So if you want to talk about working collaboratively, that was a challenge. I had budgeting experience, you name it. I ran a big office and I ran it for 8 years. It was not terribly remunerative. And so after that 20 years of experience in that office and in that job, I went into with a big downtown law firm. That was remunerative, but it was very unfulfilling because I didn't feel that I was really working for people. So I left there and ended up, my last job before I moved back here in retirement was with the Bi-State Development Commission, which is an Illinois, 3 counties in Illinois and St. Louis City and County in Missouri. And we did things like, I was in-house counsel. We operated things like the Arch, cars that took you up to the top of the Arch. We operated the trains, the buses, the river boats, and we had a small, I say small, but it was the 3rd busiest airport in the bi-state area, small airport. When, even though I lived out there for the biggest part of my adult life, my roots are here. I grew up here. My dad was a small businessman here. As a matter of fact, he operated the university cleaners on the building down on Jefferson, which is now that gorgeous 3-story building where Hardin's is. And my mom, for the most part, was a housewife, but she ended up becoming the registrar here in the city of St. Louis, city of Lexington, excuse me. My brother, Bucky Joyce, was a Commonwealth attorney. So I had roots here all along, and I loved this place, and I came back because of that. I lived in Rockbridge County up until about 3 months ago, so I had no opportunity to get involved in the Lexington scenario. But after May 20th, but when I became a resident of Lexington, I saw this opportunity and I decided that I would be able to hit the ground running because of my experience in the past that I have described to you. I don't necessarily have political aspirations. I would view it as an interim appointment, but I think I can bring a wealth of experience to the job that would enable me to blend in pretty quickly and fit in pretty quickly and help the community that I still love so much. My whole life has been in public service in one way or another, either in governmental service or in civic service. I served on numerous boards, committees, both in the city of St. Louis, statewide, and collaboratively, as I said, with the 3 counties across the Mississippi River in Illinois. I don't think that there would be any reason that I couldn't offer those skills that I have acquired over the years to this board and to the city that I love. As far as working collaboratively, I don't want to be repetitive. I've spent my whole life working collaboratively because when you work in government and public service, especially with, I call myself a recovering lawyer, by the way, not a retired lawyer, because that's what you do. You deal with people in all walks of life. St. Louis is a big city. It's a diverse city. And I had the opportunity to deal with many, many people with many, many different views. And I became pretty good at it, at working collaboratively with people and to make a difference there. And I would like to do the same thing here.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Questions? No? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hopkins, would you like me to read the questions briefly again, sir?
I'll just number them 1, 2, 3. if that's
Okay,
with you.
I'm happy to keep reading. I just don't want to shortchange anyone if you want to hear the questions again, but
We're okay.
all right.
Mayor Sigler, city council members, I think you all know me, Bob Hopkins, and I've lived here in Lexington for 29 years. Prior to moving here, I've had only 2 major careers. One was as an Air Force pilot, and the other was as a vice president of a major stock and bond financial corporation. I was motivated to apply for this position because I feel my life experiences can complement the expertise of this city council. I have no preconceived notions and will remain neutral on issues coming before the council until I have determined the facts to decide how to cast my vote. I've been a local business owner of an antique store, the Brownsburg Tea Room, and Harmony House Bed and Breakfast. And I am familiar with the demographics and the financial challenges that our local businesses have to put up with. My years working at the Visitors Center taught me a lot about tourism, local history, Washington and Lee, VMI, and the Rockbridge area in general. My 13 years of experience in finance and budget preparation should be of value to the city council if I am chosen. I'm also good at organizing and dealing with people at all levels and have no issues that would prevent me from assuming this duty. I was a member of the Lexington Electoral Board for 13 years. 2 of those 3 members from the board are always chosen from the same political party as the current governor at the time. That meant that I was sometimes in the majority and sometimes in the minority. There were frequently differing viewpoints between us members, but we collaborated our efforts and always completed Lexington elections in a friendly and professional manner. I found that listening to other viewpoints was important, educational, and sometimes convincing. In closing, I want to thank the city for 29 years of happiness,
for my family and me if chosen for this position, and I will do all I can to preserve this happy place for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hopkins, very much. Mr. Gooden, would you like me to read the questions?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Howdy. Good to see everybody. Hope you all are having a good night. Thank you for your time and everything you do. I'm Jamie Gooden. Been living here. I moved here in 2006, minus about a year and a half, almost to the day. So been here for a while. Thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. Over 10 years ago, when I moved back to Lexington after attending college here, I often heard people say, there's nothing to do here. I can't wait to move to a real city. That really bummed me out. I could not accept that outlook or that sense of disempowerment. I made the conscious decision that rather than wishing the community were different, I wanted to help build the kind of community I wanted to spend my life helping to build. So I started volunteering. Instead of pursuing an MBA or other higher education, I chose to learn from local businesses, nonprofits, and civic organizations. That experience taught me that thriving businesses depend on thriving communities, which led me to study economic development, planning, public policy, and infrastructure. Each step helped me better understand how communities succeed and how local government can help create the conditions for that success. Along the way, I've learned that leadership isn't about having all the answers. It's about listening carefully, engaging people, clarifying problems, organizing action, following through, and then taking responsibility for those decisions. That's the mindset I would bring to City Council. I recognize this is a 4-month appointment. My goal wouldn't be to come in and reinvent anything. It would be to support the council, learn quickly, contribute thoughtfully, and help maintain the momentum on the important work already underway. Question 2. Over the past decade, I've had opportunities to work across 5 areas that are directly relevant to local government. First, finance through budgeting, grants, revolving loan programs, and allocations through various nonprofits and other programs. Second, economic development through the Main Street programs, locally, regionally, and at the state level. Lime Hill Theater, tourism impact, and a number of entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial training opportunities, as well as the Economic Development Authority for Lexington. Third, redevelopment through projects like OBB and the Collaboratory and Makerspace. Fourth, planning through the Planning Commission, which included comprehensive planning and some conservation work that I'm doing these days. And fifth, citizen engagement by convening community groups and helping residents organize around their shared goals. Those experiences have given me a practical understanding of how local government interacts with businesses, nonprofits, neighborhoods, and residents. The common thread has been helping people feel heard and helping groups turn good ideas into practical action. And finally, describing a time when I worked collaboratively with folks with different opinions. One of the biggest lessons I learned was that people who initially disagree are not obstacles. They often care just as deeply as anyone else. They just hadn't found a way yet to participate. So, for example, with the Go BV project over in Buena Vista, the land banking developer was exploring downtown when a car pulled up and stopped him and said, "I'm not sure what you're doing, but I'm against it." He laughed it off. He had a great attitude. But he was finding it challenging to get traction within the business community, so he engaged me to assist. He's based out of Roanoke. I believe that if community developed a shared vision first, business investment would naturally flow. So I convene citizen meetings asking, what is your vision for BB? Over time, meetings gained better attendance and better energy, and cynicism slowly turned into optimism. Today, all those properties have become home to small businesses, a community college facility, and a thriving Main Street organization. That experience reinforced something I continue to believe today, which is that people are much more willing to work together once they feel heard. I think City Council is at its best when it creates that kind of environment. In conclusion, throughout my career, I've learned that communities improve when people feel heard. The goal has always been to help people listen to one another, organize around a shared vision, and turn that vision into practical action. and that'll be my approach if appointed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jamie. Appreciate that. Mr. Lee Davis, thank you for being here. Would you like me, I'll make the same offer to everyone. Would you like me to go over those questions again?
Only if you could do it to song.
I will spare you that.
All right. Nice to meet you all. Name's William Davis. I go by Lee, my middle name. My wife Heather's actually in the room here. You may know us from Lexington Mercantile. My youngest daughter is a master's student at UVA, and my oldest daughter is a VMI grad and Army or Air Force Intel officer. I'm also a VMI grad with 23 years of military service, and the child of a service member. And I say that for a reason, because I moved around every 2 to 3 years my entire life, up until about 2020. So when I moved to Lexington and 6 years ago, this is officially the longest I've lived anywhere in my entire life. I never had a where from. This town is now my where from. This is where I belong. And I want to do what I can to contribute to make this city the best version of itself. Not sure what that means, but it evolves and you find it and it happens, right? So that's what I want to do. And I'd also like to mention that as a small business owner, as somebody whose house is actually literally in view of this front door, I have skin in the game. All the decisions that this body make affect me personally, privately, professionally. And I think it's important that when you have that skin in the game, that you contribute in any way you can. And I'd like this really to be a way to see how city government works and to contribute in that way. Question number 2. All right, so to talk about experience, skills, and perspectives, you kind of have to rewind a little bit to understand where somebody's coming from. So when I graduated from VMI, the first thing the Coast Guard did to me is they sent me to a ship down in the Caribbean, and they put you in charge of people and they give you a task. You don't know what any of that means, of course, because you're 22 years old and you've never done anything. But you think that you're supposed to lead and they're supposed to give you trust. It's the most, and that's the opposite way of it, right? So when you talk about leadership, there's leadership and followership, and it's all along the sliding scale. And as you get older, you learn to kind of float back and forth, depending on your expertise, your knowledge, what you've done in the past, your experiences. And as you go along, you learn a whole lot about collaboration, consensus building, basic management of people, money, parts. You learn failure. You learn failure. You learn resiliency to recover from that failure because you're going to fail. And you learn to explain goals. And I think that this body is really good about that. You have to explain what you're doing so people understand it. If you simply do things, then nobody will support you because they don't know why you're doing them. And I think that's incredibly important and very powerful. And as you progress in this career, as you progress in this, money goes up, people go up, impacts go up, but really nothing changes. You're still doing the same thing. The same mechanics of leadership still apply regardless. You make sure that people know you have their back. You make sure that they know that you're there for them personally and professionally. You make sure that they understand the goals that you are trying to achieve. You clearly articulate the end state, right? And then you make sure their families are well cared for. Because if somebody's family is not cared for, they're not going to do what has to be done when it gets hard. You have to take care of the whole human being. And I think that this organization is interesting because it takes care of the city, it takes care of the families, it takes care of the people, and it takes the whole ecosystem. And I think that's incredibly powerful. So what do I bring? I bring leadership and followership experience. And I intentionally say followership because I think that's important. I bring the soft skills needed to work effectively in such a public position. I bring the ability to take complex information in from various sources, kind of distill it, make my own ideas about this, share those ideas with my peers, and then come to a decision. And not in a way that requires 1,000 hours of research, in a way that happens quickly when decisions have to happen. That doesn't mean that you shut down your learning and stop deciding when you make that decision. You still learn and you still go about it. and time that I work collaboratively with others. So I struggle with this question. I wanted to come up with an answer that was impactful is what you all do. So I do have one, but it's a little bit of a bummer. So as commanding officer at a unit, I had just reported, and 6 months later, somebody killed themselves. Pretty serious stuff, right? My responsibility at that point was to care for his family. That was the number one position. Because that person, you couldn't care for him anymore. You had to care for his family. The next step was to make a line of duty determination. And what does that mean? What does line of duty mean if you haven't thought about that before? It's to say that death is connected to service, and then therefore the family can get benefits. And the only person who can legally make that determination is the commanding officer. So what do, right? You order an investigation, you confer with counsel, you confer with your own leadership because they have the experience. You want to grab into that experience from the people that have been doing it for a long time. And at the end of the day, you write up a package, you send it to the personnel command, and then but before that, you sign it. And when you sign it, that signature can't be erased. That can't be undone. Nobody above you can take that away. So it's kind of a big deal when that happens. So between myself, my legal team, my leadership team, none of us were in agreement. We sat down for a long time on this to make sure we had legal sufficiency. The lawyers for the government want the lowest risk option possible for the government. The command for my leadership for various reasons, he had some personal issues with it, so he wasn't willing to call it line of duty. So we worked about this for a long time. Finally got to the point where we got to legal sufficiency. We got it to the point that it was in the line of duty, so his family's taken care of. The lawyer didn't necessarily agree with what we did, but he agreed that we actually crossed all the dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's. Commanding officer, or rather my leadership, was not on board with this. For his own personal reasons, he thought this was something you couldn't forgive. And that meant that you couldn't give a line of duty determination. But I had earned that trust. We talked about trust earlier. I had earned that trust. He said, Lee, do what you got to do, but I don't agree with this. So I signed the papers. I sent it in, and he took a look at it, and he let me know that I was wrong. He let me know in no uncertain terms, in as polite a way as the military can do, that I was wrong. But I stuck by my guns because I think it's important when it gets hard, you don't cave. Doesn't mean you don't change your mind if new information comes along, but you don't cave just because it's hard. And then 2 weeks later, after it cooled down, after he had read it, after it had gone in, he called me up and he said, that was the right answer. You did the right thing for those people. You did the right thing for that service member. I'm glad you did this, and I'm glad you didn't listen to me. And that ultimately reinforced my belief that leadership actually matters. The leadership of this group in this city matters. In fact, the funny thing happens when somebody takes charge. It doesn't happen in an organization like this with many bodies, but at command. The command will suddenly adopt the personality of the person in charge. So leadership matters. It's always important to bring your first foot forward, to be the best person you can be, and always strive to be better than yourself. Always treat others with empathy and understanding. That is the most important thing, I think. And then gaining and giving trust. I gained trust, I gave trust, and because of that, the collaboration, we trusted each other to make those decisions regardless. So in the end, I think it worked out well, but I will leave you with this. I think I'd be good to work with all of you. I really do. And what I really want to do is bring 100% of myself to this, and I want to make Lexington the best version of itself. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Mr. Ayers?
Be back here, although it's a little warmer than I remember it being. Mayor Sigler, I think I can read the questions myself. Tell us a little bit about yourself. My name is Dennis Ayers, and I live on Alum Springs Road at the back entrance to Lime Kiln Theater. And folks around there call it Scuffletown. I don't know if you've heard that before, but they call it that because back in the days, the workers at the kiln would get drunk on the weekends and fight each other. And I'm not sure if that's true, but I like the name for our neighborhood because it makes us sound kind of scrappy, you know. I've been in Lexington for over 20 years, and for the last decade, I worked for the Rockbridge County Commonwealth Attorney's Office, where we prosecute crimes for the county and Lexington. And fortunately, we don't have much crime around here, so it's not that big an office. But my role there is sort of a combination office manager, paralegal, tech support, HR contact, and whatever else needs fixing that day. I've had the pleasure of working closely with most everyone here before. I was elected and served on city council from 2019 through 2022. And after leaving council, I joined Lexington's Economic Development Authority, where I currently serve because I wanted to stay active and involved in local government. I applied for this interim appointment because I thought I could be useful. Mayor Friedman's passing was a tremendous loss, and I thought I could help provide some continuity at a time when there are already a lot of changes happening. I know council has a difficult decision to make here, and there are other applicants who have a lot to offer. I was really impressed with these guys. But regardless of what you decide, I appreciate being considered. And if there's some other way I can help the city, I'd be happy to do so. As to the question of skills, experiences that I could bring to the appointment, I think my legal education, along with my writing and analytical skills, were helpful when I was previously on council. But honestly, the 4 years I spent actually doing the job and the institutional knowledge that comes with that is probably the best qualification that I could have for this. The biggest advantage is that I won't spend the first 2 months figuring out how city council works, and I can contribute on day one. I already know the people, the process, and many of the issues facing the city, and I also have a clear understanding of the workload. It's not just the 2 regular council meetings each month. There's preparation for the meetings, there's work sessions, communicating with constituents. There's a lot. Sometimes even fielding midnight calls from one of your neighbors asking what to do about a bear in their backyard. And the answer to that is you bang some pots and scare it away. So anyway, I know what I'd be getting myself into, and because this is only a 4-month appointment, I think being able to step in and contribute immediately is particularly valuable. As to the question of describing a time where you work collaboratively with people who held different viewpoints, well, you guys might remember some of them because we went through them. One example would be when council took on the issue of renaming the cemetery. I think we all agreed on the basic goal, but there were a lot of different opinions about how to get there. Should we appoint an outside committee to make a recommendation? How are we going to solicit input from the public? Should we read every public comment at council meetings? And we did, and it was a lot. And ultimately, how should we decide on a new name? There were a lot of disagreements about that process, but we worked through those disagreements together and came out of the experience, I think, a more cohesive body. We listened to each other and we were all willing to reconsider when someone had a better idea. I think that's an important part of serving on council. There's a good reason you have 6 members and a mayor with a tie-breaking vote. No matter how sure you are of your own opinion, yours is not always the best idea or the best way to accomplish something. You can have respectful disagreements, and you probably will, but you have to trust that your colleagues are also just trying to do what they think is best for Lexington. The best you can do is make your argument as persuasively as you can, and in turn, be open to changing your mind if someone has a better idea. And if you get outvoted on something, so be it. You respect the decision, you respect your colleagues, and you move on to the next issue. Thank you for this opportunity to join you again on a Thursday night, and good luck with your decision.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ayers. The other applicant was Mr. Nick Alexander. He was traveling tonight. He submitted his written answers. Mr. Alexander works for Project Horizon as the assistant director. He is a middle school son and a recent high school graduate. He provided us excellent answers. We'll make sure that they're a part of the public record. What we're required to do is to accept public comment about the list of potential appointees for the next 7 days. What we essentially will do is accept public comment for longer than that until our next meeting on the 20th. At that meeting on the 20th, we will also have a public hearing. It's not required by law, but we will again invite the public to come forward if they have comments about any of the individuals that are in our pool of candidates. Thank you to everyone that applied. I think we can see why a lot of us love Lexington. It's everyone. It's not just the people serving on council. Obviously, it's the list of civic engagement opportunities that individuals shared tonight. How you all are assisting our community is fantastic. And even if you've just recently moved back to Lexington, it's obvious that you made a difference where you lived before you came back. And we're glad everyone's here. It's an incredibly hard decision that this group will have. I'm in a position now where I don't have to make that decision. But I appreciate everyone. I'm happy anyone can make any comments, but I believe that what we will do is we have a closed session on the agenda to receive legal advice, but then to also, there's an exemption to go into closed session to discuss personnel, and we're allowed to do that, and we will do that. No decisions are allowed to be made. The decision won't be made until the 20th, again, after that public comment period and a public hearing at that meeting. Mr. Carroll, am I getting it correct?
Yes.
Okay. Any comments from my colleagues?
Thank you all for applying. This was a highly qualified pool of candidates. We are really lucky here in Lexington to have so many people with such a diverse skill set. We can really benefit from all of your service. I know some of you all are already on boards and commissions, but there are still some openings. So anyone who does not get on this time, please consider that. Please consider running in the future. This is a highly qualified pool of candidates. Thank you for your service to the city, and thank you for being here tonight.
That's what I was going to say.
We're very lucky to have each and every one of you who applied because, like Nick said, you're highly qualified and you'd all be wonderful on council. Thank you very much.
I think this is affirmation that we have a wonderful city and a wonderful city to serve in. And having all of you be here to come to the table to apply is amazing. I mean, we struggle trying to find somebody to be on the threshold board, but if you want to be on city council, we have a crowd. So I think it's great. Be happy to have any of you on our council.
Or threshold.
Or threshold, yes.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Alexander. Do you have the motion for the closed session there? At this time, Ms. Alex, oh,
Yeah, sorry.
sorry.
One other clarification to make sure that I'm putting out the information that's consistent with the process you've detailed. Tomorrow we'll issue a press release and a statement on social media about anybody who wants to comment on the candidates who have submitted will be invited to email the clerk of council, Kate Beard, or myself. We'll give directions on that, and we'll be presenting all of those public documents to you. I think we're also going to put out in some fashion on our website the information that's been submitted by the candidates, the expressions of interest, as well as any of the materials that they've submitted. And so we'll have that out for the next couple of weeks until your meeting on August 20th.
Would it be possible, if the YouTube recording is worked to kind of indicate where on the recording this process began, so that if folks did want to hear from the candidates, that they could go to the minute marker, hour and 32 minutes, and watch the 25 or 30 minutes of this?
I think if technology allows us to do that, we will do it. Yeah.
And I would suggest if you do link to these presentations, then also, and this may be your plan, but Mr. Alexander's
Yes.
statements.
Completely. Yes, sir. Yes. Yes. Well, thank you very much. The vice mayor is now going to read us into a closed session. That's when we will have to clear the room. When we come out of closed session, we will certify that we were only speaking about things allowable during that closed session, and no action will be taken tonight. We will then adjourn the meeting.
Okay. I move that Lexington City Council convene in closed meeting pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3711A8 to receive legal advice from the city attorney regarding the vacancy in the office of city council, and pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3711A1 to discuss and consider prospective candidates for appointment by city council to fill such vacancy.
Second.
Thank you for your second. Roll call vote. Ms. Strawn,
Aye.
Mr. Smith,
Aye.
Mayor Siegler.
Aye.
Mr. Betts.
Aye.
And I vote